Elite Gaming.
What's up guys, it's Andrew at Elite Gaming HQ, and I'm back with a new $300 PC build video junkyard build Fortnite PC, I don't know, however you want to call it. In this series, I show you how to build a workable gaming PC step by step, including the parts and building the whole process for around $300, give or take about $100, starting from scratch. So now if you missed the first video was picking out all parts. I show you what to buy. I give you some recommendations to change it up. The second video was the build video. Now this video is kind of like video 2.5, I'd say. I mean, because really there was only supposed to be 3 videos, but the build video was taking too long, so I cut it up into 2. Of course, I will pin the previous videos to the first comment below, as well as at the end of this whole series, I will have a playlist. So you'll be able to watch every single one after another, and complete the whole project yourself. Now I have to mention this because even though I put it in text in every video, someone always asks me. The game in the background is Earthfall. It's like a Left 4 Dead co-op shooter where instead of zombies, you're killing aliens. I think the game looks good and runs really well. I usually get about 100 FPS in this game with everything at max on ultra-wide 1440p. So if you want to check that out, go check it out on Steam. That's Earthfall. So on to this video. As I said, this video we will resume where we left off in the last video of the build process. So if you're in the midst of building a PC and you want to get some tips from me, or maybe you just want to see what I did before, check out the previous video because this is a continuation and it's not going to make a lot of sense if you just start with this one first. But either way, let's get right into it. Alright, so coming back to it, so far we have the motherboard installed into the case. So next will be the steps that are the most annoying in all of PC building, I feel. This shit is ridiculous. And that is matching up the little pins with the little connectors. If you don't have these in, or you don't have them right, your PC might not start. Your PC might start on the reset button. It's crazy. It's so obnoxious. I wish there was a better way they did this, but there isn't. And a lot of motherboards are different. Particularly this one is different because it does have a key on it. Luckily, since I don't have a book for this motherboard, I didn't have to actually look it up online. Here's the picture of it, but it's spun 90 degrees. Like, what the fuck? Now we got to figure it out and try to match it up, and it's not so self-explanatory, but the good thing is I got it on the first time. I got my power LEDs, my HD LEDs, my power button, and my reset. So I plugged them in, and now we're ready to move forward. Like I said, this one could be a pain in the ass, and when you start your PC, if your PC doesn't start, this might be the first problem. That, and a lot of people make the mistake of hitting the power supply button on the back of the power supply. That's another common one, and you feel so stupid, but it happens. Happens to everybody. Next, we're going to install our USB and our front audio. Now these are pretty easy to figure out because what you do is you just line up the pins. Each one of them has a missing pin. The USB has it somewhere in the middle. The front audio has it on the end, and you just snap them into place on the bottom of the motherboard. Now if you skip this step, that's fine. You just won't have the front connection, so just take the time to do it. I feel like it's worth it. Also for me, my case supported USB 3.0, but of course this older motherboard did not. So I went and got me a handy connector which connects basic USB 2.0 to a 3.0 connection, which is just fine because these are just the front ports anyway. As long as I can plug flash drives into the front without reaching behind to the back, I'm happy. Next, we're going to plug in all the extra devices. This is going to be your second hard drive if you have one, your PC fan, your lights, all that stuff, etc. You may also have a disk drive. I personally am not using one. Most cases don't even have a disk drive available for install, and this one does not either. But now it's a good time to start working on your cable management. Personally, to me, cable management is super important. To do this, I use zip ties, and I also use like this long strand of like rubber coated wire, the kind of stuff that you find on bread bags. So a little bit of a tip here, this is what I do. For all the connections that are going to be permanent, let's say the motherboard power connections, which is the 20+4 and the 4+4, those ones I will zip tie and they will be there permanently. That's fine. But when you're dealing with other wires, like extra power connections that you're going to use maybe later down the road to add another hard drive or anything like that, those ones I use the wire because the reason is I don't want to have to clip them off later somehow and then have to re-zip tie other stuff. And whenever I build a computer for a customer, I do the same. So if later down the road they want to add in another hard drive or whatever they have, they can easily just unwrap the cable, plug it in, and then wrap it back up. So it's nice and tight. They don't have to go back there with clippers and deal with any kind of BS. So this just makes it easy altogether. I also tuck them away very nice nice, which I'll give you a tip for this if you're using the standard case, because if you remember in our first picture, the standard case was terrible. With all this cables in the front here, you're slowing up your airflow and it's killing your thermals. So ideally what you want to have is an even flow area. Let me show you how I do it. I'll just do an example here. Obviously I don't have the motherboard in the case anymore, but what I would do is I would wrap up the wires together, keep them nice and tight. Then I would find something like a screw hole or something of that nature that I can feed this through, and then tie it up and pull it real back and tight. Now it doesn't really matter. A lot of people say out of sight is better. Out of sight's okay. Like if you can't see it, it's going to look cleaner, of course. But the real thing is you want to have a direct path from your inlet to your outlet fan. This way the flow can just grab the hot air and pull it right out of your case. You don't want any flows or impedance inside your case that's just going to slow down or mix up the hot air with the rest of the components. You just want to pull it and exit it right out of the case as quick as possible. This is pretty easy stuff and it's pretty self-explanatory, but I wanted to mention it for the people that are building their first PC here, or they're kind of new to it, to get them in the right state of mind for any further builds or for this one in particular. Okay, so we should be looking pretty good so far. We have everything installed. Now it's time to install a graphics card. Oh yeah, remember I said that the 950 and 1050 usually don't need external power? In fact, they hardly never do. Well, guess what? Mine does. Mine's an exception to the rule because I have the superclock model, and the superclock model demands more power. So I have to route an extra cable just for the superclock, which is fine. My 400 watt power supply is more than enough for this whole system. But I just wanted to note that and show you guys what it looks like. Just like the other power connections, it just snaps in and has a little lock the same way as on the motherboard. Now your system should look something like this if you're following along. Everything connected. Also, let me give you a quick tip when you're putting in your graphics card. It's going to have like a little lock, and this one it just kind of has a slide, but some of them has a little lock that you have to press down. A good way to do is to come at an angle and kind of push it into place and make sure that the tabs don't get caught on the outside of the case. So sometimes I push my thumb and push these tabs in as I'm pushing down, and the graphics card should just lock right into place without too much of a problem. Then you throw a screw or two into it and you're good to go. So back to what I was saying, the computer should look like this and you should be on your way to get started. Now, if you press the power button and nothing happens and your heart sinks, it's okay, because there's a couple different explanations it could be. We could easily fix it. If you're lost and you need any help, just leave a comment below and I'll try to sort you out. I'll give you whatever kind of free advice I can to get your system working. And now it's probably time to start our first boot. Now with your fans, for me personally, I don't like to run them to the power supply. If you have to, you have to, but I have a whole video explaining why you shouldn't do this, and I'll put a card here for that video. Also, I'll put it in the comments below just so you guys can get more information on my philosophy behind it and what's going to be better for your overall experience. Because honestly, it's best to hook these fans up to the motherboard and not the PSU. Overall, that's the rundown, but you got to see why, and because you can control it and all these other reasons. Well, now with everything together, turn it on, and it's time to program it all. So first, you should already have Windows installed into your master drive, because we did that first, because we wanted to make sure our system was going to work. And if you didn't, then I guess you got to go back to the second video and find an explanation on that, or, you know, doing it on your own if you already know how. But the first thing we want to do is update Windows. So you're going to hit the Windows button and you're going to type in check for updates, and you're going to allow it to do all of its updates. This might take a while depending on your internet connection, and then you're going to let it restart. It's going to want to restart. After that, we're going to go to our GPU manufacturer and download its latest drivers. NVIDIA or Radeon directly are the best ways to go. Now, as you know, I said don't go with too much of an older video card, and here's the reason why. Because NVIDIA directly still supports 950 drivers. I went right on their site, I typed in what I had, and I just downloaded it direct. It was no problem at all. I installed the drivers, and then there we go. It looks something like this. Go through its test. You let it go through the motions, and now you have that. Next, a simple antivirus. I guess stuff like this is really not needed to say, but I just want to give you some advice on mine. My personal favorite for a free startup is Avast. Avast works great. You just go there, free, start the free trial, give them your email, and then you got a year. Avast is good. For malware, you can go to Malwarebytes. Malwarebytes is really good too. That's another good free software program, but it's only good for a month, and then you have to use it manually after that. We should be up and running. It's time to bench test. Now, you could just test it in your game, or I usually do a stability test. I usually use Metro Last Light. I set everything to max and let it run for a good 10 times over. Meanwhile, you can do Cinebench. You can download the free Heaven benchmark. That's another good one. Let that run through. All these will stress test your system and make sure everything's compatible and everything's working good. Or, you know, you can go right into Fortnite and risk maybe the game crashing. But if it does crash, fall back to one of these other options to make sure the system's running right, and you might have some other problem going on, like a driver issue. Alright guys, well that is the front to back. I showed you what parts to pick, I showed you how to build it all the way to the end, and now all we have to do is benchmark and overall get our thoughts on how good this went. I think it's a really cool project because it was very inexpensive and we got to make something interesting. Now as always, if you need any PC built, you can come to my website, which is EliteGamingHQ.net, or you can hit me up on my email if you want something custom, which is mostly what I do for everybody, which is EliteGamingHQ@gmx.com. I can't wait to see what benchmarks we get with this. I think I'm going to test it with Overwatch, obviously Fortnite, and of course Earthfall, since we've been playing it this whole time. Maybe I'll throw in a couple other games. I don't know yet what exactly to do. It'll be a couple days before I get the benchmark videos, maybe 3 or 4. So if you have any games you would like me to benchmark, I'm open to suggestions. Just put them in the comments below, and maybe I'll pick yours and test them with this machine. But if you like the video, hit the thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe, turn the notifications on because YouTube's crazy and you won't get my videos otherwise. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. My name is Andrew. This is Elite Gaming HQ. Thanks for watching, guys.